Hello again, everyone. I'm Tom Nagorski, managing editor at the Cipher Brief. Delighted and privileged to be joined today by a former Prime Minister of Ukraine, Arseniy Yatsenyuk, also founder of the Open Ukraine Foundation, who joins us today from Kyiv, just a little more than a week into the second term of the Trump administration. And sir, while we have been talking a lot here with American experts, military, intelligence, diplomatic, and so forth, about the various plans for Ukraine, we figured it's about time we talk to somebody in Ukraine about these rather grand ambitions that the Trump administration seems to have. And I thought I'd ask you, just to start, when you heard just a couple of weeks ago that the administration had this 100-day plan to bring peace to your country, what were your initial reactions to that?
Well, Tom, thanks for having me. I was thinking that you're going to inform me what's up in DC, and you will unfold the plan already crafted by Trump administration, how to save Ukraine and how to save the global order. Okay, I will try to do my best in answering the question you've raised. I am not sure about the deadlines, Tom. And in my humble opinion, that's not an issue. The issue is the terms and conditions of this so-called presumable peace deal. And the most important question is whether war criminal Putin is ready to negotiate. I am extremely skeptical over his eagerness to negotiate just, fair, and the right peace for the Ukrainian people. Because my gut feeling is that this war criminal is trying to take over Ukraine, and this is his ultimate goal, actually, to absorb Ukraine and to reshape the global order. So going back again to the question you've raised about 100 days, the primary goal in Ukraine we have is to reach a fair and just peace. Mm-hmm. The quicker, the better. But it's all about terms and conditions.
Right, right. You're absolutely
right. Let me put it this way, sir. And what am I sure about is that to get this kind of peace would be extremely difficult in 24 hours. It's a kind of mission impossible.
Right. Well, 24 hours was, of course, what candidate Trump said in terms of a timeline. Now we have this 100-day plan. And as you said, nobody knows all the terms, but some things have come out, and perhaps I can get your reaction to some of them. And again, none of this is hard and fast, but there has been discussion in your country as well about a kind of acceptance, but non-recognition is the term used, of some of the territory that the Russians have taken as part of a deal. What is your response to that, or does it depend on other pieces of a puzzle that get put together at the negotiating table?
Tom, let me get back to square one.
Yeah.
We don't have any kind of negotiations. Mm-hmm. And I don't see any kind of light in the end of the tunnel. Mm-hmm. Is not ready to negotiate. On the issue of any kind of territorial concessions, look, Ukraine will never accept any kind of territorial concessions. How could you imagine, for example, the president of Ukraine is to acknowledge that Russia fully legitimately occupied the Ukrainian territory? And what kind of reaction we're going to get in the UN Security Council or in the UNGA. So it completely contradicts the international law, period.
Right.
And we cannot allow Putin to redraw the international law and actually to break the international law entirely and completely. So once again, we are right now not in the negotiating phase. And going back to the terms and conditions of these negotiations, I believe that we have to elaborate on the format of these negotiations and on the preconditions for these kind of negotiations. What could push war criminal Putin to start talks over the ceasefire deal and fair and just peace in Europe?
Yep. You may have half answered this question already, sir, but what would be your thoughts? President Trump has already said he is arranging a meeting with Vladimir Putin. Again, we don't know the terms. We don't know certainly the location or anything else. Do you think it's a good idea as a starting point for him to be discussing a meeting or having a meeting with the Russian president at this point?
Let me start with the message that my gut feeling is that everyone right now in the world, in the free world, heavily relies on President Trump. And it's up to him to decide the future of Ukraine, the future of the global order, and the future strong or weak United States. Mm-hmm. And I believe that he has a huge ammo and huge arsenal in his hands as the president to restore the global order and to help Ukraine to survive in this unjust war. And actually to help an entire European Union to survive and to stop autocrats and dictators like Putin, like Kim Jong-un, those who are right now sitting under the umbrella of China, to stop their neo-imperialistic ambitions. Mm-hmm. So that's the main point. The second issue, what is needed? We need a clear-cut, credible, and implementable plan. How to stop the war, and how to restore the global order, and how to make Ukraine a prosperous country with European Union membership, not just prospective, but membership, and NATO membership. And I want to be very clear, Article 5 is the only solution for Ukraine how to secure its future. This is the only ironclad guarantees. Whether it's a good idea for President Trump to meet with the war criminal Putin, I am not in the position to lecture the new administration or the new president. It's up to the president to decide whether he wants to bring the isolation that Putin is in right now. And my guess and my take is that this kind of meeting is possible, but only in case if President Trump gets real deliverables out of these meetings, very strong deliverables. When President Trump at the press conference after the meeting, which is to be only held by the president without war criminal Putin, is to announce that he has reached a historic deal to save Ukraine, that he forced Russia for the ceasefire, and that actually Ukraine has restored its territorial integrity and got an ironclad security guarantees from the United States. And the United States have shown its strength all over the world. So in this case, maybe yes.
The future of national security is here. Introducing the Cipher Brief's NatSec Edge Conference, June 5th through 6th, 2025 in Austin, Texas. Join leaders from intelligence, defense, private industry, and investment as they explore the innovations shaping tomorrow's world. Gain critical insights, connect with top minds, and shape the future of security in an interconnected world. Don't just witness the future, be a part of it. Secure your spot now at natsedge.com.
You've used the word deliverables, you used the word preconditions a moment ago. What would be an example of a deliverable or precondition that you think should be laid forward before any negotiations begin?
We need to strengthen Ukraine's position, and we need to strengthen not just Ukraine's position, but the negotiating position of the entire free world. Because I believe that the format of these talks would comprise the United States, the European Union, Ukraine, and Russia. This kind of format we had in 2014 when I used to be the prime minister, and we had this kind of Geneva format. And then Secretary of State participated in this format, but then we switched to Normandia, which wasn't as effective as I believe Geneva was so effective. So what kind of preconditions? The first one is the best way to persuade war criminal Putin to stop his aggression is to show that, and not just to show, but to enact the legislation in the US Congress, which is needed to show to Putin that the United States will have a long-term strategic goal to support Ukraine. That the US has the back of Ukraine. Mm-hmm. I mean that it would be great if President Trump is to sponsor the bill, a new security package for Ukraine. I am well aware of the doubts that the new president has over the necessity to support Ukraine both militarily and financially. But military investment into Ukraine is the best military investment into the US security, and it's obvious for everyone. So the first step, I believe, would be to pass the legislation with the new security package, which aimed at supporting Ukraine. The second one is we need to scrutinize what kind of tools we have in our arsenal to press on Russians. No doubt that we need to deprive Russia of its financing of their war chest. It's definitely gas, oil, and the rest of the stuff. The previous administration, in the end of its tenure, passed an impressive sanctions package. Now we need to enforce and implement these kind of sanctions, because look what's happening. Europe is still buying LNG from Russians. That's what FT today in the morning reported, and this was obvious. Russians is still gaining from its oil and gas export. So whether we have enough tools in our hands to stop these kind of circumvention of sanctions, yes, we do. But it's up to the US administration to impose secondary sanctions. And I believe that's what President Trump was talking about last time when he said that, look, we can impose tariffs and sanctions on Russia and on Russia's partners. So it means that the secondary sanctions that Trump's administration could envisage and enforce would be very helpful. The third issue is that we need a very strong unity between the European Union and the United States. It has to be no daylight, even a hint of the daylight between the EU and the US. And we have to be rock solid within our NATO union. Because this beast, war criminal Putin, he understands only the language of strength. And the stronger we are, the more, I would say, chances to press on him and to get the fair deal for all of us are visible.
You said, Mr. Prime Minister, back in November, I think it was in Berlin, that because Mr. Trump was unpredictable, that was your word, that you would need a crystal ball to imagine how he might act on any of the things we've been talking about. Well, now we've had a couple of months and 10 days or so of his administration. What have you learned? Do you feel any better or any worse from the vantage point of Kyiv in terms of the way forward?
Well, President Trump made a number of statements. A few of them were very encouraging. The last one was not as encouraging as I expected. But it seems to me that he has changed the tone. And it's important right now to underpin these kind of right and strong statements with bold actions, bold and strong actions. So I am still looking for the crystal ball, but I see a few folks who presumably know the location of this crystal ball. It's National Security Advisor Waltz. It is retired General Kit Kellogg. Secretary of State, well, it's a seasoned diplomat, Marco Rubio. And another very important and impressive people who represents new political establishment of the United States. There are another folks on the different side of the aisle, but I will always focus on those who are very supportive of Ukraine and who are actually very supportive of the United States, because it's in the interests of the United States for Ukraine to win, because this is to be a joint victory. And the leader of this victory would be President Trump, no doubt.
Yeah. President Zelensky said the other day that Vladimir Putin was trying, he used the word, to manipulate President Trump in his statements and in other ways. What do you think of that? And to what extent is Ukraine maybe not trying to manipulate Mr. Trump, but to influence him?
I share his take. I mean, President Zelensky's take. Look, who is Putin? Putin is a KGB operative. So they've scrutinized the portfolio of President Trump. They got the previous experience of communicating to President Trump. So, and Putin tries to introduce this kind of flattery towards Trump. So he wants to outplay Trump, and that's clear for me. But whether President Trump will buy it, I hope no. Because look, President Trump seems to be a very impressive person. He survived one assassination. He survived practically another assassination. He survived political, I won't call this as an assassination attempts, but he resurrected politically. So it's unprecedented story in the political history of the world. So my guess is that Trump will be on the right side. And the right side is to help Ukraine and never buy any kind of KGB operative Putin manipulations.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you a question about corruption in Ukraine, which is a part of this conversation because some people here have been critical of the U.S. aid because of alleged or perceived corruption in Ukraine. There's this story now about the standoff over the procurement agency. And without getting into too much of the detail, or if you'd like to get into the detail, that's all right. But how damaging is something like that at this moment for all the bigger messages that are coming from Ukraine for the U.S. and the rest of Europe?
So it won't be easy for me to put the long story in short. So let me start with this huge network of anti-corruption agencies and law enforcement bodies that have been established in Ukraine since 2014. Because I was the prime minister who sponsored the legislation and who actually established the prominent, independent, amazing, efficient anti-corruption agencies in this country. National Anti-Corruption Bureau, Anti-Corruption Court, Special National Anti-Corruption Preventive Agency, Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office, and the rest of the stuff. So the reason why I'm telling you this, because we did it together with our partners and allies in the United States and in the European Union. And we have a vast and strong network of anti-corruption law enforcement agencies in this country. Frankly speaking, in my humble opinion, it's even stronger than in the US. For example, I've never had about any of US politicians who have to fill in an electronic declarations for public servants that we have in Ukraine. You have to disclose everything, including your underwear, okay? But the thing is that whether corruption exists in my country, yes. But what are we doing right now with the corruption? We try to mitigate corruption. You cannot eradicate completely corruption. And you guys have the same problem in the US. But we are on the right track. In terms of the last news towards public procurement issues in the DoD, I believe that the Ministry of Defense have to be very supportive, both to the president, to the country, and to the military. And the less these kind of articles we have in the international media, the better argument we're gonna get to help Ukraine, but not to hold the support to the Ukrainian people.
On the good news side, and we have heard this, I mentioned American military and other experts in our network at the Cipher Brief, we've heard over and over again about the remarkable success of the defense and innovation sector in Ukraine. And I wonder, sir, if you can comment on Ukraine's future in this area, whatever happens with negotiations and the rest. Is that a bright side in terms of what has happened in the last nearly 3 years now? And how do you think Ukraine can leverage that for its future?
The bright side, Tom, in this country is the Ukrainian people. Mm-hmm. The Ukrainian people that can innovate, the Ukrainian people that can produce cutting-edge technologies, the Ukrainian people that can fend off the Russian military, and the Ukrainian people that do really know what freedom and liberty is about. In terms of some kind of very specific innovations in the military sector, I am not an expert in this, and I would never comment the stuff I don't know about.
Okay, okay. Last one for you then, Mr. Prime Minister. You said you don't have a crystal ball, but what is your, back to where we began, what is your assessment of the chances, 100 days, 200 days, that sometime this year there will be a peace through strength, as you said, in your country?
Sir, that's, Tom, that's an inflection point. That's a historic moment. It's a make or break situation. And we have to realize this. Because it's not just Russia fighting against Ukraine. It's Russia, North Korea, Iran, China, and another club of rogue states and dictators and pariahs fighting against the freedoms and liberties, against the global order, fighting against the United States. Because you folks are the leaders. They are fighting against you, using us. So we have to join our ranks. We have to square the wagon and to win in this righteous fight. In terms of the time frame, once again, the quicker the better. And it all depends on the arsenal of tools we possess and on our political will, whether we are ready to use every single tool in order to reach the target, in order to reach a fair and just peace for Ukraine, in order to restore the global leadership of the United States, in order to show to every single autocrat and dictator, your times are over, folks, just over. Period.
Very strong point to end on. We're going to have to end it there. Arseniy Yatsenyuk, former Prime Minister of Ukraine, founder of the Open Ukraine Foundation. We really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us at the Cipher Brief.
Thank you, Tom. Take care.